Lakeland Public Television's Common Ground is brought to you by the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund.
I've been doing art all my life. I majored in art at Mankato State University, now called Minnesota State University Mankato. My major area was painting and drawing and three-dimensional work, and most of that was done in glass blowing. I was the featured glass blower at the Minnesota Renaissance Festival from 1977 to 1988. Quite often I just draw my fish on tag board. That way you can see I've got all these different sizes, different lengths, different shapes. These all happen to be walleyes. I've got folders full of sunfish and crappies and northerns. I've got big patterns of northerns over there, big walleyes. I don't worry a lot about extreme accuracy when I start these. This is just a rough end to get me going. I'm using 14 gauge hot rolled steel. The reason I'm using hot rolled steel is because I'm going to apply a patina to this fish, and the hot rolled steel reacts the way that I want it to. Cold rolled steel doesn't react properly. I don't strive for absolute total realism. These fish are more representative than they are perfectly real. That's not my object. My object is to be representative. My youngest memories were growing up were fishing. I've been doing fish and water things for my whole art career. And it's just a reflection of how I grew up more than anything. My father was an absolute fanatic when it came to fishing, and when I moved up here back in about 1986, I fit right in. So that's the rough out on the fish. I started out doing this process, I made it up from scratch. I had some leftover steel from a job I'd been doing for some people. I'm an artist turned welder, and so sometimes my welding helps to support my art habit and my artwork. So I like to incorporate the weeds. I find the weed lines fascinating. That's something I've really been aware of as my work has progressed over the last 10 years, that my line quality gets better and better all the time. And that's a really important thing for an artist that's doing any kind of work that involves lines. Line quality is huge, and it reflects the form more than any other thing, and gives a feeling of freedom and design. And I'm gonna go ahead and lay out 3 of these fish, and I'll cut all 3. That way I've got enough to do a 3-piece wall sculpture. I work in 3s a lot. 3 is kind of my number. I was born on the 3rd of July. I had a daughter born on the 3rd of September. But it's also a magic number. It makes a nice balance too. 3 is a good number. 3 is better than 4 visually. Way better than 4 visually. There's a lot of balance in nature. Just about everything I do comes from nature. I borrow from nature. There isn't much that isn't found in nature. And somebody said, well, I do wildlife art. Well, I don't think it is, but that's okay if that's what they want to see in it, that's fine. I just considered art from nature more than anything. What I've got here is an amazing little tool called a plasma cutter. And this machine changes nitrogen in the air into plasma at 30,000 degrees Fahrenheit, and it comes out an opening in this nozzle the size of a pinhead at 65 psi. It does an amazingly clean job of cutting the metal without heating the metal up. It leaves very little slag. What I need to do now is clean up. I'll clean this fish up and clean the lines up a little, and I will clean the slag off of it. I need to finish drawing the lines in, give myself a guide here now. I use these lines I'm drawing as guides. I don't worry if I'll actually change them as I cut them. Now I'm going to change wheels, then we'll start carving. I'll do 3 of those. For this piece I'm doing, I'll do 3 like that. And I freehand the weeds because my form is so much better. I don't sketch them out, but I learned the best way to do it is to just start cutting. Okay, that's how I cut the weeds. There's a few weeds. It makes a very attractive weed. It's got some nice interesting things going on. The forms are all a little different. So the first thing I need to do then now is to make the background. So I've got these pieces ready. They're just 45. This is the bottom. This is the top. And what I've done is I put keyholes in there with 2 different sized drills so that I can either hang it in the middle, or if a person wants to, they can hang it on 2 screw heads on 16-inch centers. As I do this piece, as I lay the fish on it, I will balance it out so it can be hung from the middle. So the first thing I'll do is tack this up. And what I do is I have buckets full. I'll just get a bucket of weeds over here just so that I can pick and choose which weeds I want to use. So I like to work with odd numbers as opposed to even numbers. Now I have to bear in mind that I'm going to also need to attach 3 fish to this. I like the composition of the weeds. This will work. It'll support the fish where I need it to. And that's pretty key. Then go around here now, and I can mark these weeds, and that's where I like them. That's a nice balance. I've got 3 over here. Nice asymmetrical design. Sometimes I keep the weeds within the frame. Sometimes I put the weeds on through the frame, over the frame. In this case, some will go over the top of the frame, and some will go up here to go through the frame. So now I need to decide just how the fish are going to go in there. And I've got this one. So the first attachment point I need to think about is this one. There. Now, does that work visually? Yeah, I think it does. These, of course, will be finished like this one is when I get there. I'm keeping it on center. That looks pretty well balanced. Okay. So what I will be able to do now, knowing that, is I can position these fish as I mount them and mark them so that I can hang it from a central point on the piece, and it won't tip one way or the other. Now I've got everything marked. Now I can take these off of there one at a time. I will tack it into place. Okay, I just keep fitting these pieces now as I go. I'll fit them all into place, and they will actually, behind the back side, I'll tack everything together just to add strength to it. I've started with the frame. I started with the sheet of steel. I cut the fish out. You saw me cut the weeds. And obviously I've got a lot of work left ahead of me. And what I am doing is I'm bringing all of this to this. This piece now, the steel that you see here is going to look just like this. And all this color, and you saw me carve the lines, all this color is done with a patina, which sometimes I powder coat, have it powder coated. Sometimes I paint it, sometimes I just put a patina on it. So I've got all kinds of things to do. So that's a finished wall sculpture of, I like to call them weed bed walleyes. It seems that the artist's statement is always a big deal. A person's got to make this profound artist statement, but to me, it seems that the work should speak for itself. I don't think that I need to explain everything about my work. I think that's the job of the artist, is to let the work visually do its own job. I'm not going to tell somebody what my work means. Let them decide that for themselves. And I don't think my work is that profound. I'm not trying to make profound statements. I'm trying to make artistic statements.
If you enjoyed this segment of Lakeland Public Television's Common Ground, consider making a contribution at lptv.org. If you have segment ideas pertaining to North Central Minnesota, contact us at legacy@lptv.org. Common Ground is funded by the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund by the vote of the people on November 4th, 2008.